Today, I am talking to Leon Lewis, whose talents include, but not limited to, being a talented guitarist, songwriter, producer, and a music director. Today, Leon Lewis has expanded his musical and business knowledge and is now the owner of Altar Boy Music Publishing in Los Angeles and London. Equally a business executive as well as an artist, Leon Lewis has made many great contributions to the music industry. Leon has been involved in the music business his entire adult life, and now I'm welcoming him to my Music and My Story show. everybody. My name is Larissa Tormey, and you're all very welcome to a new edition of my show, My Music and My Story, where I'm going to introduce you to a very talented man who has a very interesting story behind him. His name is Leon Lewis, and he is head publisher and the founder of Altar Boy Music Company, publishing company. Leon, thank you very much for taking my call and for agreeing to have an interview with me.
Oh, great. My pleasure. Yeah, I just also wanted to say that um, if you want to get into this subject, because it's very popular nowadays, right? Uh, part part of what we do is I'm also a sync agent
Yeah.
for songwriters and composers, which means um, I harass, troll, and terrorize music supervisors trying to get them to play our
Our
music
music.
in
Yeah.
TV and film. So,
That's
boy,
super.
yeah, so I'm a little bit of a terrorist that way.
Good, good. Every musician, Leon, wants terrorists like yourself because we need somebody to do it for us anyway. And tell our
Yeah,
listeners, Leon, we are in Ireland like most of the listeners in UK. You in UK now, I know.
yeah.
But tell just people a little bit where you are originally from. What's your musical background?
Okay, well, uh, basically, I was born in Mexico City. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, uh, my mom was, my grandfather on my mom's side was American. So that's how we ended up after my parents divorced. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was dual citizen. So, we ended up moving
Mm-hmm.
to San Diego, California.
Okay.
Right. My mom's second husband, um, he was he was a pianist, but he wasn't quite pro, right? He could have gone pro, but he decided he'd rather go into like business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where the whole idea of, oh, well, let's give Leon piano lessons. Yeah.
Okay. How
So,
old were you? How old were you that time when you started to get
well,
lessons?
I got to tell you, before that in kindergarten, right? They picked me out of the class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say you're staying after school because they were picking students that showed some sort of musical ability to put them together in after school music lessons, right?
Okay.
So originally it was the trumpet, yeah?
Oh.
And my mom and my grandmother were crying, right? Because they're all, oh no, he's gonna go nuts with the trumpet, right? So
Uh-huh.
the school said, no, 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 the trumpet stays here. He goes home without the trumpet. And they said, oh, okay, well, that's a better deal then, right? So, but also my grandmother, right around the same time, gifted me with a little Spanish guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was originally the trumpet. That didn't last long because shortly after that, I was diagnosed with severe asthma. So I
Okay.
couldn't blow very well, right? But I really did like tinkering about with a little guitar. And then when I got older, and my parents got me piano lessons, right? It's really funny because my dad was also a very, very accomplished pianist. My dad was more accomplished than my stepdad. Yeah.
Wow.
The difference is that my dad was more into classical and he could play Chopin and
Mm-hmm.
Beethoven and all that.
Classical pianist.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But my stepdad, being American, he was more into jazz,
Okay.
right?
Which
And
which
jazz
give you which
harmony.
gave you all the background though in all the styles of music,
Well,
isn't
well,
it?
not only that, but then enters my cousin and my uncle, right?
Okay.
Because my uncle was huge into 40s big band.
Uh-huh.
So that right there, yeah, I learned very, very easily and quickly, probably um because I was so young, right? to differentiate the difference between jazz,
Mm-hmm.
big band, which
Mm-hmm.
is really called swing,
Yeah.
yeah, and you know all the little subgenres thereof, right? And then little by little, with the classical, I started learning,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the you know the differences between the Romantic period and the Baroque period, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I'm a big sucker for a good Baroque period piece.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm also a sucker for a good fugue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. So
right.
what do you play, Leon, now? How many instruments? Do you play guitar and
Well,
piano, is it?
well, you know, I play one of these nowadays, right?
Ah.
Oh,
Rock and roll, baby.
yeah, yeah, and but I also play bass. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I use sometimes I'll use piano as a writing tool.
Leon, and moving you then, okay, so you're all this musical family around you, you're very much into music. Did you end up then to play in the band? How did you get into music?
Okay, this is how I ended up playing in bands and all that, right? And how I ended up getting seriously into guitar, right?
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Some relative, right,
Mm-hmm.
decided that it would be a good idea, and I was only like 9 or 10 years old, right? So who sends their 10-year-old to a military boarding school?
Oh, did they? Did they send you?
They sent me to a military boarding
Oh
school,
my
right?
God, that's terrible.
Right, because they, um, I don't know what was going on with them. Um, but who does that? Anyhow, at military boarding school, um, a kid smuggled in his record collection, right? And going back to my cousin, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, he gifted me with a couple of records, right?
Mm-hmm.
One Christmas. So um he gave me uh an ACDC record
Right.
and a Kiss record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the kid at military school had smuggled in the Rolling Stones, yeah. So I was off, right? I so I
You were
I
sold.
ended
You were sold to the rock
yeah,
and
yeah,
roll.
yeah, yeah. So then what happened was I managed to get myself expelled from military school.
So how long? I just going to stop you. How long did you last in that military school? How many years?
Just 1 year,
Okay,
but
good,
I
good.
worked I worked really hard to get kicked out and
It
expelled.
wasn't for you. I can't imagine you to be in anything like that now.
Right, right. So between that and then, I kept getting kicked out of schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like my grandmother's like telling me, well, what's gonna happen with you? What do you want to be? And I said, I want to be a rock and roll guitar player. And she starts crying,
Of course.
right? And she
That's
and
not a
she says,
profession. That's
oh, how did she put it? Because she said it to me in Spanish. She said it, ay las hambres que vas a pasar, which kind of means the starvation you're going to
oh yeah, you're going to
unleash on
starve.
yourself,
Yeah.
right?
So you fluent in Spanish as well, Luis, are you? You speak two
Yes,
languages. Oh
yeah.
wow. That's
Ever
great.
since I was little, I can do French and Italian a little bit. It's more Italian than French, but I have to be around native speakers for like a couple
You're
of hours, and
picking it
then
up
I
very
can
fast.
start.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So you obviously bright and talented, but you wasn't
yeah.
really born to be in the structure school where you
Yeah,
have
but
to.
it's so funny because um, I do appreciate structure. One needs to appreciate structure in music
Hmm.
because it's very mathematical
I
by
agree.
nature,
Harmony. I
right?
agree with that. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm a walking contradiction, if you will, right? So anyhow, right? So my grandmother bought me my first um proper electric guitar and a little amp, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started taking guitar lessons from a gentleman in San Diego called Tom Beebe, right?
Okay. Okay.
And it just so happened that Tom Beebe had also been guitar teacher, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to two of my favorite guitarists at the time,
Who was that?
Warren DeMartini from Rat and
Oh.
Jakey Lee, who replaced Randy Rhoads in the Ozzy Osbourne band,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So because of that, I was I suddenly became very, very disciplined.
So how long was that? How long did you take these lessons? Did it take long to learn to play guitar kind of good
I
enough?
actually, it's really funny because I only, I would have continued lessons with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I only took lessons with him for about 2.5, 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because after a while he said, look, um, I think that if I continue to be your teacher, potentially you're going to get into not apathy, but stagnation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
too mundane. You have to grow yourself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got
So
it.
basically, um, he has to have a meeting with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he came over. My mom made food or whatever, right? And we had a chat. And suddenly he just, puts this envelope on the table, right? And says, and on it, it had a big red logo, right?
Mm-hmm.
With white letters, right? That said GIT Musicians Institute,
Mm-hmm.
right? Hollywood, California, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he saw, look, take the test, send it in, see if you can make it in for the audition, right?
Okay.
I'm all like, whoa, this is like real heavy duty stuff, right? Right. So I go and fill it out and all that. I don't know. I mail it in. This back when we had snail mail, right?
Uh-huh.
Suddenly we get a phone call from Musicians Institute, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
asking me when I can come over to do my audition.
Great.
So I went and did the physical audition. By the way, in a very, very cheeky way, I had managed to become friends with the other two students, with Warren from Rat and Jake from Ozzy Osbourne, because Tom ended up introducing me to them, right? So
Okay.
like I have this personality where they're all, what a cool little kid, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But plus,
Likable personality. It's very
yeah,
important.
but at the same time, it was a no-brainer for my mom because when I moved to Hollywood, right, to attend school, I had barely turned 17,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom sent, a couple of his mates to like, look after me, but they weren't supposed to be looking after me, if you get my drift.
I do, yeah.
But they were checking up on me, right? Like make sure I didn't do stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, at school, right, it totally blew my mind, right? Because it wasn't until after I started school that I found out who I was actually taking lessons from. And it blew my mind, right?
Right.
Like one of my teachers was Tommy Tedesco, right? Tommy Tedesco is, well, he's passed away, was one of most independent um, session guitarists. He was even a member of the Wrecking Crew.
Right.
So he was
So,
on everybody's record. Um, they had what they called LPWs, live performing workshops, right?
mhm,
That was a mandatory class because they
mhm.
also wanted to give you a background in performing live. Come on, once a musician, one needs to have those skills, right?
Very important, yeah.
Yeah, and my instructor for that was none other than Tim Bogart from Vanilla Fudge.
Wow.
You know,
Leon, how long was that course in that music school? How many years you stayed in there?
Um, I took it's originally like a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
but I I before I start the full course, I start the summer course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I start the summer course because I figured out in my mind, right,
Mm-hmm.
that if I start the summer course, it was summer, it was the 1980s, height of the Sunset Strip, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I could leave home quicker, yeah, because I was, well,
Couldn't wait to run away.
well, yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why I said yes to the whole idea,
Oh my
you
God.
know? Um, hey, I wanted to live fast and be with older
Of
women
course.
and
Your
all
poor
that.
mommy. I'm sure she didn't want you to go.
Oh my God, my mom couldn't count the days until I left either, right? Uh,
She was sick of you.
no, actually, she loved me. Don't get me wrong. She
Of
was
course
like
she did.
my biggest supporter, right? But she had a hard time explaining me to her friends and colleagues, right?
Right.
Um, because in order to describe my mom, and I'm not being mean, I hope you see the humor of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so um, think of an episode, any episode of Dynasty or Dallas, and
Oh.
think of how those women used to dress and the makeup and the
Oh
whole thing.
wow. Real
So
uptight, high
yeah,
class.
yeah, exactly, right. And
Okay.
plus, my mom was um she was very involved in Southern California real estate. All of my mom's friends, right, looked and acted and all that like something out of like a
Well,
high
I can
dynasty.
imagine. I can. You didn't really fit in. I don't think you fit
No,
in
well,
quite
not
well.
only that, but it's like imagine cousin It from the Addams Family walking into a nice little wine party my mom's having, and the immediate, pearl clutching, you know.
Oh my God, it's very funny.
I mean, it's
Okay,
hilarious, right? And
hilarious. How did they make you at all? Where did you come
I
from?
don't know, but I'm telling you, I walked into my own house one day, right? And then suddenly the pearl clutching, and this woman is starting to take her earrings off, going, "Please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me." And I'm just like, and I'm all, lady, I actually
I
said,
live here. I
I
live
live here. I go, Mom. And then she's all, "Oh, you're early," and got off.
This is one of the great stories I ever heard
Oh
altogether.
my God. Yeah.
So, okay,
And then, so then I ended up, moving to Hollywood and all this, right?
mm-hmm.
So then, okay, my teachers, right, find
Okay,
out that that I owned a gutted 1972 Ford van. Yeah.
okay.
Instant job in the music industry for Leon like that at like
Because you're
18 years
driving, isn't
old.
it? Because you have a wheels.
In Los Angeles, in Nashville, and in London, there's a little cottage industry called cartage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which all you do is you go collect musicians' gear and you deliver it to the recording studio.
Oh, wow. I never heard about this too. That's
Then you
new.
invoice, then you invoice the record company for services, right?
Right.
Or the recording studio, and then they invoice the record company, right?
Okay.
And then they tell you, well, come back, at this time, or come back tomorrow at this time, or in a couple of
To
days,
move it back.
however long the sessions are,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly I was making like a couple of grand a week.
Oh,
Because
that's clever.
yeah, because I was going into proper recording studios like Cherokee Sound on Fairfax, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and A&M on La Brea, right?
So you were not only moving and making money, but you were making contacts. I'm sure. Were you?
Exactly. I was
Yeah, yeah,
making
yeah.
connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it got to the point where like it first started with little things like the second engineer and I would end up like, you know, waiting for the session to end, telling jokes.
Okay.
Then it would be the next engineer. Then
Mm-hmm.
it would be the office lady at the studio who was doing all the
Mm-hmm.
invoices, right? So I would make them laugh. I'm very gregarious and all that, but I also have a special skill set that's very, very valuable in the music business, especially back then, which is I know when to shut up and when to stay quiet.
Yeah, well, you were intelligent enough, not
Yeah,
stupid. That's
right,
it.
right. So basically, right, I started getting invited into to come into sessions a little bit earlier, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that you know, so that after they were done, yeah, I could
Mm-hmm.
hang out with them a little bit,
Yeah.
and I started meeting producers and all that, you know. But mostly musicians, right? So that's how I started making certain connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meantime, I'm hanging out on the Sunset Strip, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, meeting all sorts of people, right? Oh my God, it's like here's a funny story, right? So I decide I'm gonna start recording myself, right? So I bought one of those little Tascam 4 tracks
Mm-hmm.
recorders, right? I managed to make my first demo. I have a Tascam and, you know, a proper guitar, right? And it's like my third song I've ever written, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I put this demo together, and it was that song, and then like a cover, right? And at that time, there used to be a club called the Central, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which looked they made it look like a London tube station. At the time, right, there was a band called Faster Pussycat playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also through my fun adventures, I became really, really good friends with Tommy Lee's sister,
Okay.
right? And I loved her because, you know, older woman. She has an ID. She
Right.
can buy me beer. And she did, and she would, right?
Right.
And you know, she wanted to be like her brother Tommy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like it was like a very innocent exchange, like I'll buy you beer if you help me carry my drums, right? And half her drums she would steal from Tommy, right?
Oh.
You know, and it was hilarious, right? I, you know, so basically from her, you know, I started meeting all these people, and then suddenly she mentioned this woman called Vicky Hamilton, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Yeah, we're gonna go see our friend Vicky, see if she'll help my band out. She's really important, right?" And she's all, and I'm all, "Oh, really? She sounds familiar." And she says, "Yeah, she got my brother. She helped my brother get his deal with Elektra Records. She got Guns N' Roses signed to Geffen. She's now working for Geffen. She manages Poison and Faster Pussycat, right? Well, at the time, those were like the
Bigger
biggest bands.
stars. And she was a
You know,
manager.
yeah. So basically, you know, they sneaked me into the Central, right? Because, you know, of course, it's 21 and up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I used to have to get snuck in everywhere, just about, or I learned how to sneak
Yeah,
myself
sounds you
in.
were very good with that anyway.
I was an expert, let me
Very
tell you,
good.
right? So basically, I go in there and somebody says, "That's Vicky Hamilton," right? And I
Mm-hmm.
start shaking because I have this demo, right? And
Okay.
I poke her and I'm shaking, right? And I'm all, "Will you listen to my demo?" And she's all, "Oh, you're so cute. Of course I will, honey." Well, and she just about gives me a pat on the head. Well, I gotta tell you, right? Bless her, because to this day we still talk about, a couple times a month. She released her book, right? She rang me on Skype one day and she's all, "Hey, Leon," right? Because she always goes like that. She goes, "Hey, Leon." I'm all, "Yeah, Miss Vicky, I'm coming to England." I'm all, "Oh, really?" And she's all, "Yeah, and um, I want to give you a job." I'm all, "Okay." And so basically, I became her tour manager.
But what about
Where
your
she
demo? Back to your demo. Did it go anywhere at all?
back to the demo, I never it. That little shitty demo opened more doors for me, yeah, than if I would, because it was so shitty, right?
And you were so cute. That's the
And I was
combination.
so cute,
Combination.
yeah. So that's why I joke with people. I'm so ugly, I'm cute, just like a little
You're
donkey.
not
You
ugly.
know what I mean? So sometimes we never get what we think we're going to get out of, something, and sometimes it can be a lot better. If it wasn't for that teacher that said to me, "Oh, is this your van?" And I'm all, "Yeah." And he wrote his number down and said, "Call me on Friday. I got a job for you on Saturday." You know,
You
and
wouldn't
and
get
and
where you were.
and the funny thing is that if you think about it, I never hustled for any of that. Because
Yeah.
I mean, come on, in LA, there's so many people hustling and
Trying
trying
to
to
make it, of
out
course. Yeah.
hustle,
Yeah.
and they're just rude. Actually, that's part of the reason why I left LA. You
Why?
know,
Why? Because of
But
what?
I got sick of the hustlers, right? Then, by the time I left LA in 2008, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was over. Everybody was moving out to Nashville by then, or had already moved out to Nashville. I have kind of like two lives, right? The playing in bands and the being the studio guy thing,
Yeah, I got it.
right? And it's nothing out of the ordinary, like in places like LA or Nashville, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes you just got to take the job because it's, it's on offer, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know,
You just move where you think life will brings you, and it works out for you then, isn't
well,
it?
yeah, if you're trying to get like studio work, right? But the only offers of work that are coming in are, "Hey, will you play in a you know uh in a residency with us?" Yeah. Well, you're gonna get paid if you play in the residency, and then maybe by the time that gig is done, things open up and you start getting the studio calls
Mm-hmm.
again. So
But
in other words, one needs to be flexible. Yeah.
of course, tell me, Leon, moving back to you, when did you start to get in a band? Like, when did you start to play in a
Oh my
band?
God.
And what was the band?
The first band ever, right? Talk about, I hope you laugh, right? Because it's very dated, right?
Right?
1988, right? Um, I was still in music school, right? And all most of the teachers hated it because it wasn't very musical, right? It was a band called Shotgun Wedding.
Oh, someday. Shotgun wedding. Or okay, rock
All
band.
right. All right. And we even had like about 10 seconds, right? A quick "Who are you?" on the Sunset Strip in a documentary by Penelope Spears called "Decline of the Western Civilization Part 2, the Metal Years." Right. So yeah, I was in a little, in a little band called, Shotgun Wedding.
Mm.
God, I must have been like 18 or so, because like I was about to leave music school, but I think I was still in music school or whatever,
Mhm, mhm.
right? And oh my God, we were like scandalous.
Can you list me the name of the band you were with, Louis?
A brief list, right?
Mhm.
Like you know, uh, uh three, four, like of the more serious bands,
Okay.
like Motorcycle Boy, like Private World. That was a band that I was in with Arthur Kane from the New York Dolls.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Or, ooh, all right. This band was basically the same band, but we had two different names. One of the bands was called the Starfuckers,
Okay.
but we also had the other White Meat. Basically, the main guys in the band, right, were Slim Jim from the Stray
Mm-hmm.
Cats,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Eric Dover from Jellyfish and the Alice Cooper band, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Roxy from the Alice Cooper band, yeah, um, uh, Diz and Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses
Right. Okay.
on
Wow.
piano, and the bass player was a revolving door.
Tell me now, because that's very important. Let's go into your business.
Well,
So,
I have to tell the funny story
okay,
first
go on. Go on.
because it's connected, right?
Okay. Okay. Lead
All
us
right,
to it. Yeah.
so right around in the early 2000s, yeah, I ended up working two jobs, right? One
Mm-hmm.
job I was uh a co-manager or like shift manager of a studio called the Alley Studio, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in North Hollywood, right?
Okay.
All right. The studio was founded around 1972, between 72 and 74, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody you can imagine, right, came to rehearse at that studio back then, right? Like Rod Stewart, The Faces, Linda Ronstadt, all that, right? So ever since then, the only way you can get a studio in that studio is if they know you.
Oh,
Yeah,
so, okay,
they
famous. If you're
don't
famous.
advertise, or if the record company has had the number or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, just as luck would have it, one of the mates that I made throughout my travels in Hollywood um, was one young Calico Cooper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I met her at a coffee shop because she was a barista at a coffee shop. I knew the owner and I used to rent the back little house was my little studio, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one day me and her are alone in the coffee shop and I see that she's got all these backstage passes, right?
Okay.
And then I look at all of that and she's all, hey, you sound really cool. I'm all, thanks. And she said, you kind of remind me of Johnny Thunders. And I'm all, oh, great. I love the New York Dolls, right? So
Uh-huh.
I'm checking out all her backstage passes and I'm all, how old are you? Right? And she says, oh, I just turned 18, right? I'm all, that's your dad, isn't it? And she just gets really quiet, right? And she's all, how do you know? Right? I'm all,
Uh-huh.
first of all, you look alike. Second of all, what other 18-year-old would be holding, Alice Cooper VIP passes going back to the 80s, right?
Wow, you smart, Leon.
So basically she laughs and like, yeah, it was, it was her dad and all that. Um so then going back to when I was working at the Alley, right? She comes over, the owners notice all the Alice Cooper things like I did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the owner um runs upstairs to the office, right? Brings down an invoice, unpaid invoice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And says, young lady, you are not welcome here until your father pays his debt, right? It was
Right.
an old invoice, right, that they forgot they had out, right, from the 1970s, right, for a week of rehearsals, right? And when I saw the amount, right, like I went like, oh my God, no way. $80, right? When when I was working there, we were charging 3,000 a week. Yeah. So anyhow, a couple days later, Shep Gordon and Alice Cooper come into my work. They pay the owner, right? They had a nice little reunion, right? And then she said, they say, "Oh, you're welcome anytime here." Anyhow, so she got into a love affair with one of her dad's guitar players, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got caught, he got caught, right? So anyhow, he ended up moving into the studio or his Pro Tools rig, yeah? He ended up giving me the keys to his car that he hadn't registered that belonged to the Cooper's Ford dealership, right? And I
Okay.
got arrested. And you know the LA cops are all, "Who's the car belong to?" I'm all, "Oh, it's Alice Cooper," and they're all like, you know, "Yeah, you don't know him. You're on drugs, right?" So by the time they come and get me, the same officers are saying, "Oh, Mr. Louis, so sorry for the misunderstanding. You have enough." I still had to go to court, but you know. So anyhow, because of that, I ended up. I was also working at a record label as director of publicity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they offered me the job. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of being the talent agent, booking agent. I called a friend of mine, who is a very, very, very big, powerful entertainment lawyer in LA. She
Mm-hmm.
said, "No, you can't do that because it would cost them 50,000 to get you bonded, and you still haven't got 5 years experience in a bonded company." Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because the talent agent was retiring and she was doing all the business out in South Carolina anyhow. So different laws. So she says, "Call me back."
Mm-hmm.
So then I call her back. She says, "You're starting UCLA Law School." So a couple months later, I start UCLA Law School. At law school, all my classmates were already working in the business. You see, and that's where I met my friend Julia, who was working for Fox Sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she gave me my first composing job, right? Which was 21 arrangements of Take Me Out to the Baseball song, which is basically the American baseball theme. Yeah.
Okay.
So ever since 2006, um, up until now, from March to November,
Mm-hmm.
those compositions are broadcast. Yeah. Then we had the Hollywood writers strike.
Mm-hmm.
All the work dried up, but I started getting all this work, right, from the UK because Fox had paid for me to attend a couple of conferences because the baseball project had won a couple of Emmys. The
Mm-hmm.
project did, I didn't. I want to clarify, right? So
Okay.
then suddenly, right, I'm getting all this work. All my mates in Hollywood by this time were expat Brits that have moved out to LA because they had big record deals. Some of them were in the process of moving back. And they said, just just come over. and I started working for a company called Lime Pictures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of a TV show called Hollyoaks.
Yeah, of course I do. Oh, that's
Yeah.
very
So
famous.
I landed 5 pieces in Hollyoaks like that. Yeah, they really liked me, and certain executives at Fox, right, and other people suggested that I start my own publishing company and library
Mm-hmm.
because they said, look, it's going to be a very, very long time before people start doing bespoke composing again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were right because to this date, yeah, the, custom bespoke work is not what it used to be as
No,
far as
no.
the frequency that one can get it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then to add insult to injury, we're coming out of a 3 year long lockdown with the pandemic
Yeah.
where nobody has worked at all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have to plug the fact that I'm doing a fundraiser for Altar Boy for my company
Mm-hmm.
so that, you know, I can hire the staff I need so that I don't have to shut my doors,
Yeah.
so that I can continue to pitch,
Mm-hmm.
all the composers and songwriters without having to worry about, how am I going to do admin this quarter or whatever. Does that
And
make
tell
sense?
me, how are you going to do fundraiser? Through what? Any platform you're going to use? Explain it to people now if they
Okay,
want to.
basically the fundraiser goes like this, right? I'm trying to raise between 7,000 and 10,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? The page has already been set up, right? Um, Depending on how much the donation is, right? I will give them, X amount of shares in the company,
Okay.
right? So, they can be, so basically, um, it's an investment in me, but it's also an investment for the person,
So
right?
you are kind of not even fundraising. You're looking for investors, Leon, is it?
Yeah, but
For
it's a lot.
investors.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier to get a fundraising thing through
Mm-hmm.
Gifts and Go, right? Than try going to the bank or asking for 10 grand. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when they know nothing about royalty payments and all that, because as you well know, we make um, on the publishing side, we really, really make um, our money quarterly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, as a publisher, I do belong to ASCAP BMI in America, PRS in the UK. You also have music supervisors, right? That because they weren't working during the pandemic, they're doing all these online webinars, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
charging young hopefuls ridiculous amounts of money where they're not
Yeah.
going to get any, the young hopefuls are not going to get anything, right? The
No.
other thing that I do, right, very important, I do offer a wide range of consultancy services.
Okay.
So, all right, so I do everything from consult artists and teach them about record release cycles and all that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, all the way to your local pub. You know, I consult them on why, or even local shop, right? Why they need to pay the annual license, right? And
Mm-hmm.
why it's not the same as them putting their Spotify playlist on their phone in the shop because
Okay.
that's not allowed.
You know the law. Obviously, you're very professional in music and in the business of music. And so, if anybody
Well,
needs any
yeah, yeah,
consultation, you can do the consultation as well in
yeah,
this
and
field.
see, going back to when I said I'm a walking contradiction, yeah. Well, suddenly it turns out that I am a very disciplined person after all.
Leon, before we finish, we nearly at the time when we have to finish now. Tell me where people should go to get in touch with you.
Okay, For anybody that wants to get in touch with me for whatever degree of business, yeah, or work, they can contact me at Leon, okay, two email addresses, Leon at
Mm-hmm.
altarboymusic.com, and altar boy is spelled Altarboy, right?
Okay.
So Leon at altarboymusic.com and Leon at altarboymusicusa.us.
Leon, it's a time to say to say
It's
goodbye.
time to say goodbye.
Could talk to you all day, I must say. And I mean,
I'll
I
have
hope
me
it's
on some other time. We'll do an update on the
of
fundraiser,
course
and
we should do it again.
I can tell you more silly,
Yep,
stupid, funny Leon adventures.
I'm sure you can. Like, you're full of stories. Thank you very much for your time, Leon. And I wish you all the best with your fundraiser, with your business. And I'll talk to you very soon again, okay?
All right, speak soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye. Tender is the night, lying by your side. Tender is the touch of someone that you love too much. Tender is the day the demons go away. Lord, I need to find someone who can heal my mind. Come on, come on, come on, get through it. Come on, come on, come on, love's the greatest thing. Come on, come on, come on, get through it. Come on, come on, come on, love's the greatest thing that we have. I'm waiting for that feeling, waiting for that feeling, waiting for that feeling to come. Oh my baby, oh my baby, oh why, oh my, oh my baby, oh my baby, oh why, oh my. Tender is the ghost I have the most, hiding from the sun, waiting for the night to come. Tender is my heart, I'm screwing up my life. Oh Lord, I need to find someone who can heal my mind. Come on, come on, come on, get through it. Come on, come on, come on, love's the greatest thing. Come on, come on, come on, get through it. Come on, come on, come on, love's the greatest thing that we have. I'm waiting for that feeling, waiting for that feeling, waiting for that feeling to come. Oh my baby, oh my baby, oh why, oh my, oh my baby, oh my baby, oh why, oh my. Tender is the night, lying by your side. Tender is the touch of someone that you love too